Okay, I'd like to call the August 27th regular council meeting in the city of Twinsburg to order. Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Steele?
Here.
Ms. McFerrin?
Here.
Mr. Fury?
Here.
Mr. Bellin?
Here.
Mr. Scafidi?
Here.
Mr. Barr?
Here.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Here.
Okay. All right, so we can join Mr. Barr in the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, sir. Father, we seek your guidance for the business that is before us. In planning for the future of the city of Twinsburg, give us vision. Guide us to make decisions that are not self-serving, but for the betterment of our community, so we can continue to move in a positive direction. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from July the 9th. Anybody have any changes, additions, subtractions?
Make a motion that the minutes are accepted as submitted.
I'll second. Shannon, please call roll.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Okay, next we are on to awards and presentations. First is the Eagle Scout.
All right, you can come over here. So, well, good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out. You know, throughout the last 3 or 4 years, we've been honored to be able to present proclamations to a number of Eagle Scouts here in our community. And I just want to say, and I know I probably repeat myself, but I'm really proud of this community and the programs that we have going on, especially with the Boy Scouts and all the work that they do for the city of Twinsburg, all the time, all the effort, and it's not just the projects that the Eagle Scouts do. It's, you know, they're everywhere. They're helping out with our events. They're helping with city cleanups. They're doing a lot of different things. So it's always an honor to be able to recognize an Eagle Scout, because there's a tremendous amount of work over a number of years that makes this young man eligible to earn this award. So I have a proclamation I'd like to read. Whereas the administration, council, and residents of the city of Twinsburg, Ohio, extend congratulations to Christian James Harsa for his achievements in earning the rank of Eagle Scout. Whereas Christian joined Cub Scouts in 2008 and Cub Scout Pack 677, sponsored by St. Cosmas and Damian Church of Twinsburg, he received his Arrow of Light in February of 2013. Christian has earned a total of 26 merit badges, 21 of which were needed for the advancement to the rank of Eagle Scout. Whereas Christian crossed over to Boy Scout Troop 223 in March of 2013, sponsored by First Congregational Church, under the leadership of Scoutmaster Peter Dale and Scott Brandstetter. He has held the positions of Patrol Leader, Assistant Senior Patrol Leader, Den Chief, and Troop Guide. Whereas for his Eagle Scout project, Christian oversaw the donation drives for items including baby clothes, stuffed animals, books, and other children items. They were then consolidated into boxes, wrapped, and delivered to University Hospital's Rainbow Babies and Children's. Christian was awarded the rank of Eagle Scout on July 1st, 2019. Whereas Christian has participated in many extracurricular activities, both within Eagle Scout and school, he has participated in the National Youth Leadership Training and the high school adventure trip to Laurel Highlands, a 70-mile hiking trip. He's also a member of the Twinsburg High School's varsity cross-country team, Great Expectations show choir, and the track and field team. Christian is a senior in high school and plans to study forensic psychology in college. Now therefore, I, Ted Yates, Mayor of the City of Twinsburg, express my congratulations to Christian James Harsaw on achieving the prestigious and honorable rank of Eagle Scout. I further congratulate parents James and Renee Harsaw, brother Nathan, and sister Sophia, along with family, friends, and fellow Scouts as they gather to commemorate this special occasion. All right, next we get to swear in a new full-time firefighter paramedic. Come on up. Chief, you want to join us? So, John DeVault. So, John has been with the department on a part-time basis, and I know he's a valued member of that department. And so I know the department and the city were excited when we had this opportunity to bring John on full-time. He's going to be a great, hopefully, long-term addition to Twinsburg, and we're excited to bring him on board. So if we could go ahead and if you raise your right hand, repeat after me. I, Jonathan L. DeVault, do hereby solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States of America, the Constitution and laws of the State of Ohio, the Charter, ordinances, and resolutions of the City of Twinsburg, Ohio, and will faithfully, honestly, and impartially discharge the duties as a full-time firefighter/paramedic of the Twinsburg Fire Department to the best of my ability, as I shall answer to God.
As the mayor stated, John's been with us just short of 3 years, a part-timer. He comes with about 6 years full-time service with Cleveland EMS, and also some part-time service previously with Brunswick Hills Fire Department. So he comes with good experience, and we've come to appreciate his presence, and we also look forward to many years of working with John. Thanks. Would like to welcome also his father Roy and mother Diane, grandmother Donna, girlfriend Jackie, and her son Landon are here to join him this morning. Yeah, can you come up for a quick picture? Okay.
Sure.
And we do have cupcakes.
All right.
All right. Bam, 5-minute break.
Yeah, sure.
They don't usually get us in anyway.
Okay. Anybody object if we take 5 minutes?
I think we're going to take a short recess and enjoy some cupcakes.
Scott.
Yep. We're going to take a 5-minute break.
5-minute break, then we're back in. Back to work.
I went over there. Looked at that.
All right, back we go.
I don't know what those people.
Okay, next on the agenda was the CIC website review.
Oh, okay. Yes, Mark, can you put that on the wall? All right. In the last year, we have updated and come out with a new website for the Twinsburg Community Improvement Corporation. And I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but again, this is one of the vehicles that we use to help economic development and growth in the city. The difference between the city and the CIC is that the CIC is a nonprofit that's funded through the fees of the BZA and the ARB and some of the bed tax money. By law, we have to put 50% of the bed tax towards an economic development program. The CIC was founded in 2013 unanimously by council, and we have the ability to work with a developer for a cohesive plan on certain areas of the city. We have the ability to purchase property. We have the ability to sell property. We've had property donated to us. And the idea is with us purchasing property, in fact, we bought some of the Lane property near Dunkin' Donuts, 2 lots, and that we didn't want to have fast food restaurants or drive-throughs the whole way down. You know, nothing against Macedonia, but that's, when you drive downtown Macedonia, it's shop after shop after shop after shop that are all individual. And that's, you don't, if our city runs off income tax, not property tax. And we would like to have mixed use, so a collection of both professional and commercial uses there, not just simply food-oriented or fast food, because there's no revenue to the city there, and there actually is a cost. We go to the About area. It just clicks it. It gives you a down mention. It talks about the Board of Trustees. The Board of Trustees that we have is made up of local business people, the mayor, a couple council people, and residents, as well as the superintendent of schools. And the director, executive director, is Larry Finch, who's our economic development coordinator. In this section, it also shows you the our organizing documents, meetings, agendas, and minutes, and our financial reports. Because again, we're a 503C, so we have to file every year, and those are public documents. We have an area that talks about Discover Twinsburg. It gives facts about this. So if you didn't know about us and we're looking to invest, you have some brief information on it. If you go to available properties, which is new for the site, it shows what properties are available to either purchase or rent to put a business in our city. In the last section, the next section is programs and developments. It talks about the other programs that work with our the CIC, which would be the programs we have for tax incentives. We have a top program, which is Twinsburg occupancy. So if you move into an existing building, bringing in more employees, we give you a discount on the income tax that you have to pay for those employees. We have a CRA program, or community reinvestment program. If you build new or add on to an existing program or an existing facility, we can offer you a tax abatement on the property tax for the new construction for a period of time. And we've also entered into a long-term agreement with the school systems so that we compensate them back on a flat percentage, which they thought was more beneficial to them, as well as we thought it was easier to calculate. So we really don't have we have a lot of support with the school system in getting those agreements to potential businesses, because we need to do these things in order to be competitive from our neighbors and other communities who are also trying to capture these businesses. The last section is news, and I think that the latest news that we have in there is that we were just audited by the state, and it came back with a great report. Also talks about a new resident that we put on there, Angelo Garcia Paulo. But this is just a vehicle to get information out on what we're doing, what our goals are. This is, again, it's an arm of economic development for the city. We also are using a Facebook page to promote this with the news, as well as the agendas and the TAMs for new businesses. So, again, this has been in place for 7 years now. We have bought and sold properties. We've had properties donated to us. And our major goal right now is to work on a downtown redevelopment program. We've assembled some properties, and we're working long-term to do mixed-use C3 continuous program in the downtown area. And we've made progress on that. And hopefully we'll have something to announce in the near future. So, you have anything to add to that, Mayor Yates?
Just quickly, I mean, we've gotten some questions about, the CIC's been around for a number of years now, and it's like, what are you doing? That's been just a basic question. And our focus has really been on that redevelopment of our central area. So that southeast quadrant has been really our target, trying to assemble property, trying to attract investment into that area so that we can then look toward development, target with the community and see what do we want to see built there. Really, that has been our main focus, along with that corridor from Dunkin' Donuts down to the square. So those two areas have been really the focus of the CIC. There's a lot that goes in, and it takes time. I mean, we've been working on this a number of years now, but it's a big project, so hopefully we can continue. We're slowly making progress, so hopefully we can continue to do that and engage the community for some type of positive redevelopment in the downtown area.
And lastly, the last tab on the website is Contact Us. So if there's a question that you have or comment, you can contact us, or you can call us just outright. I mean, it's all the names are on the website, as well as an ability to contact us directly. So we think we have a nice website. We're trying to be more proactive in getting information out, both on our website and through Facebook, so that residents understand what we're doing with the CIC. That's all I have. Thank you.
Looks nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, good job.
Do the website part. Okay. Okay, next on the agenda is audience participation.
First, we have Daisy Walker.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Attorney Yates, council and staff. Daisy Walker, I guess this is still under the Environmental Commission. I have a ministry, and what I've been doing for the past 20 years is taking widows out for their birthday or it doesn't have to be a specific date, but if their husband have passed away and then somehow, I don't know, I'm just led to take them out and to kind of take care of them. So annually, I take him out to breakfast or take him out to lunch or take him out to dinner, then keep in contact with him. And just to let you know, my mom was my first client because my dad passed away about 20-something years ago. And she didn't like going out, so I was the one that took her out. I took her to Bob Evans. And we went out 3 times, and she said, "This is it, save your money." So, but you know, that's what moms are. But anyway, I'm here now to talk about rollator walkers and Segway scooters. I don't know if you saw the lady who had the rollator walker who sat up front here. Anyway, because I didn't know exactly what they were either until about maybe 2 months ago. And I finally got a response from a donor regarding this. And also the Segway scooters that we see the policemen ride around in, and if there was a problem and they can't get their vehicle in the parks, they could just take this Segway and ride in the park, ride at Parks and Rec and things of that nature. So anyway, I called a Twinsburg resident, and we've been friends for over 8 years now. And he's a general manager of a certain car dealership. And he mentioned to me, he says, "Daisy, what do you want? What can I do for the city of Twinsburg?" You know, he is a Twinsburg resident. And I told him, I said, "We're looking for 2 rollator walkers, and for anyone who has a medical challenge." Just say they went to the fitness center and they worked on the machines and they want to go for a walk on the track. Well, this piece of equipment, the best I can describe it, it reminds me of a grocery cart without the cart. But there's a seat, and they could actually, it has 4 wheels and just push it around so they won't lose their balance, and they could just walk around the track or whatever they want to do with it. I was at, took our neighbors who are moving to Aaron and Moses, and I'm thinking, take it up there, you know, because your tables are great because you could just slide it right in there and have breakfast or lunch or dinner or whatever. Secondly, the Segway scooters, those are the 2-wheel self-balancing transporters for the police department, and also for, I'm trying to get 2, and also for our Parks and Rec. So whenever we have Rock the Park or anything that we can encounter in a small space, I think these Segway scooters, you could just get on them and ride and, you know, just take care of business. What I need from council, if you could give me any other reason why we should not have them or why we should have them. I do have to email this resident tonight, and I do need your blessings on this. And he said, "Daisy, let me know the cost, and he'll probably get back with me at the next council meeting." I think this is great for our seniors. I think it's great for our police officer. I think it's great for our rec commission, because when we have crowds and crowds of people, how can we get around? We can't drive in our cars. So I think one of the Segway scooters would be beneficial for our public events. And then maybe down the road, this particular resident may donate 2 more. I don't know, but if we could try 2 Segway scooters and 2 rollator walkers, I think that'll be great for the city.
Sure.
So if you have any comments, I mean, Brian, you being a police officer, I'm sure you could see the benefits. Well, a former police officer, you can probably see the benefits of this.
I think they're beneficial where you have a condensed district area where it's tough to get cars, the
Like
patrol car
Rock the
around.
Park Or
Um,
Twins Days or something
Yeah,
like
you could
that.
you could use it up there. The other thing that you gotta have is you have to have a flat paved surface to roll one of those things on. I don't know how well they do on uneven ground. I do know,
I don't know.
I think I've seen them, that there are some golf courses that have something like that out there where you hang your clubs on one side and away you go on one of those, and I
Or
don't want to
golf
try
club.
that. But it's an interesting idea. There's a way.
I like the idea of Derek on a Segway at Rock Park.
And he will do it.
First it was the earpiece, and then the bright shirt, now the
Right.
Segway. I think
I
this
know,
is a
he's
trifecta.
flying down there. Okay, so.
My only concern would be just in general, the safety or the liability of the city in, allowing our staff, I would not get on one of those just because I'd fall over and just get out of bed. So that would be my only concern, so I guess I would defer to Mr. Nistros.
Right.
There are PDs out there that have those.
Yeah.
I know, but I would imagine there's some sort of training or some
Oh,
sort
sure.
that goes along with
Yeah.
that. That's my only concern.
Yeah, there's no doubt there's a learning curve. Police, I think if you wanted to explore this, it might be a good idea if we could somehow get one of the tests for police so they can see if it would be beneficial to them. And I don't know if you've had an opportunity. to
Well,
speak to
I
them or
did
not.
talk with Chief Noga, and he said that they have been trying to get some for a couple years now.
Oh, yeah.
And he said
They
it
can
would
borrow
be.
Derek's.
Derek has one?
And the scooters.
So, and the thing is, he needs to know, so shall I proceed with this? And
I don't know.
I would be receptive to at least give it a try.
Yeah, I would say
Yeah.
that.
At least start one and see
Yeah,
how
at
it
least start
works.
with one
Yeah.
and let's see what happens.
Right.
about
How much
that
do they
others
cost? I've
where she's
never
talking about?
priced
they
one out.
range anywhere from 400 all the way up.
A Segway?
Oh, I.
Yes.
No, I think they're more
I
expensive.
more than that.
Yeah,
No,
more
they're
than
thousands of
that.
dollars.
Yeah.
The ones that a police would use would probably be $8,000 to $10,000, I would think. They're not cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I know the
Well,
ones.
We could put Derek on a hoverboard. We could get one of those for 400.
Derek, how'd you
Put
like
you on the spot there.
it?
Yeah,
The,
yeah.
But he's looking to donate, is that right?
He is, and I just don't want to, you know me, I don't want to lose any money.
Yeah. I'd be happy to,
Yeah,
if he
sounds
wanted to
good.
donate and give it a try. Personally, I've never ridden one, so I don't know
I
how
haven't
difficult they
either.
are. But those that do ride them, they make them look simple anyway, so.
I know.
It'd be worth an opportunity to try it.
Yes. Well, the only thing with the Segway, they're self-balancing, so,
Well,
unless,
that's what they tell you.
there's an equilibrium problem, but I think it's a starting, a learning curve, and we could try maybe a couple, and if they don't work,
So is he just looking to donate something
Well,
or specifically that?
no, just this, just what I asked
We'll
for.
get, I guess we'll try to find a price, and I'll share that with council. I'm sure there are certain standards that we would need in place to have a police officer or
yeah, it's got to have,
someone of any safety force.
it's going to have a bulked up suspension, even one of those with
So we can-
somebody in
we can try to
full
find that out.
uniform.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'll just email him tonight and just say
We're researching
we're
it.
researching it?
There you go.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daisy.
Next, we have Kathy Klein, Nikki McCreary, and Jack Newmarch. They'd like to come up together.
Can you pass these pictures to Joanne? I would appreciate it for you to share. I've seen some of these already via
Thank you.
email, but those are just a few you have taken. We are here on behalf of the residents of Whispering
Same
Woods,
direction.
the housing development where the third phase is being currently established with Ryan Homes. And we had a couple, well, we have a lot of concerns, but we had a couple questions too regarding a letter that was sent to Just Our Street, which was received over the weekend from Amy Moore. I don't even know where to begin, there's so much to talk of, but we've been really frustrated since really towards the end of the school year last year when heavy construction vehicles were turning off of Chamberlain Road onto Pine Ridge, turn left on Maryvale to go all the way down to the cul-de-sac to access where they were clearing land and preparing to, get lots ready and build the model home and start this development. First question we have is, they're calling it Phase 3 of Whispering Woods, but from our understanding, they are not going to be a part of Whispering Woods, the established now for 12 years, I believe the development is, at least. They're not going to be paying our association fee each month for plowing or for all the lawn maintenance. They are going to be able to do their own things. I don't know why they keep referring it to us, like Amy's office and everyone keeps saying it's the third phase, but they're not really going to be associated with our first phase. Do you know anything on that?
No. Larry, do you know anything that, I mean, I probably the only reference is just strictly, I don't think there's a legal ramification of that reference. I think just because it is embedded within Whispering Woods, that development itself, you can't get to the new homes without being
We
part
know.
of Whispering Woods.
We definitely know that.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know there's anything legal that's being put out there that's saying they're gonna share in all the benefits of Whispering Woods and not pay. I don't think
Yeah, well,
that's.
John Alvarez, our property manager through Carlisle Management Company, and others had told us that they aren't going to be, even though it's Phase 3, they're not really part of Whispering Woods. They are going to, like I said, not be required to pay
Okay.
the monthly fee and have the amenities that we have there. So that was a question we had brought up. The construction vehicles, if you look at the pictures that Joanne has, they quickly put in, after a lot of scuttlebutt, they quickly appeased all of us by putting in a little stone drive, and for just a short period of time, they allowed access from Chamberlain Road into the corner of 82 and Chamberlain for the construction vehicles. But prior to that, and shortly thereafter, we were still daily watching the barrage of front-end loaders, dump trucks. Somebody got called because of speeding down the street.
Yes, yes, we had a complaint about the gas truck that supplied all the equipment, and one of our residents called and complained about this. The next day, just to taunt us, he went down the street about 5 miles an hour. The next day, he went down again, but about 50 miles an hour the next day. And that's the way it's been going. The police could make a lot of money by going out there during the morning rush and the evening rush and ticketing some of these speeding trucks that's going down there.
I'm also a resident of Whispering Woods. I do not live on Maryvale, but my home is the second house on the next street, so I see and hear all the traffic. This letter says that the traffic will be limited to Maryvale, which we're not happy about. But I have seen on numerous occasions large equipment on tractor trailers will come in reverse down Maryvale and pull into the street opposite my house backwards and then go forwards out of our community. Now they're driving backwards to begin with, which I can't imagine is a safe thing to do when you have a trailer with a front-end loader on it. And the fact that they are turning onto another residential street when there is a cul-de-sac at the end of this new development. My question is, why can't they go down their own concrete street, turn their equipment around, and at least drive out forward? Seems to me it would be safer than what they're doing now. And of course, we're concerned about the damage that they're doing to our street. Our streets are asphalt, not concrete, and they weren't in real good shape before this all started. We understand that there is going to be money in the budget, the letter says 2022, and it may take that long for the construction of those 20-some homes to be completed. And in that time, I'm sure our roads are going to be damaged daily with this huge equipment coming out. Kathy showed you a picture of a large tractor trailer with a front end loader on it. Well, that equipment has to go in for every basement that's dug. So I think there's 25 homes going in there. There's one up now. So there's going to be concrete trucks and gravel trucks and very heavy equipment accessing our community, our streets for the next probably 2 years. And I'm just wondering why is it that Ryan didn't make a better plan? For a short while, I lived in the reserve, Nature's Preserve in Twinsburg Township.
Mhm.
That's a very large community. They build over 120 homes there, and they're all Ryan homes. But in their plat, they made an access road off to Ravenna, and that road was used only for construction equipment. Now it's used for residents, but that was the only way that the trucks could access that community. And it saved, I'm sure it saved the people who are living there a lot of grief. So I guess that's all I have to say. And I was wondering why this letter that went out to the residents on Maryville, I think it maybe should have gone to everyone in the community.
It was from Amy Moore from the engineer's office. Just our street got it, where everybody's been affected about it. Nobody's happy about it. We all see it. People that have children, I mean, we saw this at the end of last year, and I am concerned. I will literally see parents fly up to drop off kids that miss school buses back in the development, and there's an area that they'll stop and wait at Maryvale and Pine Ridge and Chamberlain. And I'll tell you, the day I came out of my driveway to go to work at 8 in the morning, I came face to face with that dump truck and front loader, and I had to back up because he was going from Pine Ridge left onto Maryvale to go to the site, and he took up the entire road. I also have a picture in there of somebody in a little bucket truck coming down from the site, and they were driving in the middle of the road at lunchtime when I came home, and they're in the middle of the street. And we've got children, you've got school bus stops. It just is not. It's not a safe situation, and they reference, well, this is how we did it with Boulder Creek or Boulder Ridge or whatever these other developments are going up. But we are an established development. This development, I'm assuming, is 12, 15 years. It's an established development, and a home or two is one thing, but you're building a whole development off of ours, and you're coming through our residential street and homes to do this. It sounds like very poor planning on everyone's part.
Yeah, I know. I mean, Boulder Brook is also established. I mean, what's going on right now is a whole second phase. I mean, all the homes were in. They were people living there. Yards were in. It's an access and a safety issue. And I know the road condition of the road. I mean, it's probably going to get bumped up. But we didn't want to try to do anything to that road before this
Common
construction.
sense not
Yeah,
to
before this
repave
construction
it now.
project.
Yeah.
We could have discussions with the contractors and try to figure out something that would just to minimize that traffic. But to have them dump out on either 82 or on Chamberlain right at the edge, I mean, we don't want to slow down the development of lots. I mean, I don't think it's going to take 2 years. I mean, for 25 lots, if you look at how houses sell in Twinsburg, we're going to get, I think, one after another, we're going to get permit requests for homes to be sold there. So hopefully the project, I know it's painful for the residents right now, but really there's no other real access to be able to provide there.
Mr. Alvarez had said to us, I did speak to the developer weeks ago, and they told me they would research the issue and get with the city and get involved. Do we know if that has happened and they're just not saying?
There's communications all the time between with our construction projects. I mean, we have guys on site that are monitoring things that go on in every construction project that goes on in the city. So I will talk with Amy, our engineer. We did meet about this. I did see the letter that was prepared. And I mean, if you'd like it to go out to all the residents, we can do that. The only ones that we've been hearing from are the ones on Maryville. So we've had a couple of people, one or two people that we've talked to on Maryville that have shared concerns, and we understand it impacts all of them. I mean, that's just the nature of construction. It's no fun for anyone while it's going on. But I can talk to Amy, and we can see if we can meet with the some of the contractor and the developer there to see if we can minimize the impact.
Yeah, because Amy had said in this letter that now that it's cleared and ready to go and construction's going to commence, there are 9 lots sold so far.
Mhm.
I've gone back there and counted, but we're not going to have all of these, like the pictures, but yes, we are. We are going to have big trucks bringing in front load. They have to dig basements. They have,
Mhm.
and it is disappointing, I'll be honest with you too. We did reach out, and I have to thank Joanne. Joanne was the first and only one to get back to me. Then 2 or 3 days later, I finally heard from Amy. I've emailed numerous people at City Hall and heard
Yeah.
nothing back, not a phone call, not an email. That's inconsiderate. That's inexcusable that,
Sure.
people don't return phone calls or don't respond to emails
Okay.
with our concerns.
Sure.
You commented about sending letters out to all the residents. If you do, send them out on time. When this whole thing started, 2 years ago maybe, we received a letter to come to the planning commission meeting to voice our opinions, but we got the letter about 3 days after the meeting. And that's happened a couple times.
Yeah. That's not helpful. No.
I was contacted probably about 10 days ago by Mr. Shotwell on Maryvale. And, I mean, there was a lot of back and forth, and, I mean, I think that Ms. McFerrin and council and the mayor, I mean, we have all discussed this, so I do want to apologize. I did not personally receive any messages or anything from you, but know that we are here for you, at a minimum, just to be a sounding board. So please feel free, you'd like my contact information, I'd be happy to provide that, or it's on the website too. I'd be happy to try and answer any questions. Just, I've gotten very familiar with the situation via Ms. McFerrin and Mr. Shotwell on Maryvale, so I'd be happy to help out in any way I can.
Well, we do appreciate that, and we do appreciate you hearing us out. There's, like I said, there's so many details, but the main thing is, you do need to speak with the developer, you do need to speak with the contractors, they need to slow down, they need not to back up down Maryvale from the cul-de-sac all the way to Pine Ridge or onto our side streets. I mean, they need to think, we've got children everywhere, they're gonna be home on breaks, they're gonna be home through summer, and again, this is gonna go on for quite some time, and I hope when it's all over, they do come in, if Ryan Holmes has to do it themselves, because they also said something, Mr. Alvarez said something about that he said when he notified the developer, he said that, he said, keep in mind, the streets are public roads, not private. They will be responsible to repair the damage that they cause. So between the city of Twinsburg and Ryan Holmes, if these roads go from bad to worse, which they already are, you would think that they would help with the responsibility of making these roads new again.
I would like to say one thing. That's not my ward, and I was not contacted by anybody. However, through Ms. McFerrin and Mr. Barr, I've heard about some of the issues going on there, and I was there as recent as today. And I have to say, you have a very nice neighborhood. It looks very peaceful, and it's a nice neighborhood. There was nobody working today, of course.
No.
So I wasn't there with all of that, but I really think that control, if that's going to wind up being the permanent route, that control. I saw your picture with that skid steer going down the middle of the road. That's really unacceptable, and I agree with that, and I'm sure that'll be addressed. But
But still, the
hopefully,
construction.
hopefully it'll be minimal, and at the end of the day, when it's all over, you'll have your peace and quiet back, and hopefully even through the project, and the road will be repaired too. So, yeah, you do have a nice neighborhood.
We will be in touch.
I commend you. Mhm.
Keep an eye out on everything, and I think that's what the neighbors are just saying. They'll just let the police department or let the city know on, when we're seeing infractions, because you can come over and it's quiet as a church mouse, and you could have missed it by, most of it started early from 7:15 to 8:30 every morning. It was usually early, not, and then as they're leaving, I'm not really sure, because most of us are at work, so. Anyways, we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Dave, could we talk to require the developer to do a Home Depot and have somebody walking with their vehicles to keep an eye out for kids? You know how Home Depot does with when they're moving their equipment through their stores, they have somebody in the front and somebody with a flag or whatever getting people out of the way.
I think what we'll do is we'll talk to the engineering to see who's out there. I'm not sure which one of our inspectors is out there. But I'm sure we have somebody that can go out there and give us a little more input as far as what they would recommend and how they would recommend that being handled, so there's no, the safety concerns will be served.
Yeah,
Right, thank you.
that might work. Okay. Anything else, Jan?
There isn't more.
Okay. Next, we move on to council communication and committee reports. Mr. Bellin, you have a lot.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Steele. I hope everyone had a relaxing summer, and for those with children, I hope that the school year is off to a good start. Also, during our break, the Board of Elections released the final list of candidates that will be running in November. Just a sincere thanks for serving. I attended the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting on 8/14. Let Mr. Scafidi talk about that. The Architectural Review Board met 3 times over the summer. On the 18th of July, there were 3 cases. Case 190760 was a pergola at 9667 Firelands Drive. 190761 was a new single-family home at 3012 Wyatt's Way. Case 190762 was a covered deck at 1318 Waldo Way. All 3 were approved. The ARB met again on August 1st. There were 8 cases on the agenda that evening. Case 190863 and 64 were signs for O'Reilly's at 1888 Cornerstone Parkway. Cases 1865, 66, 67, and 68 were signs for Circle K at 2496 East Aurora Road. So that was the car wash, the exterior of the building, and pricing signs. Case 190869 and 70 were new single-family homes in Boulderbrook at 3033 Wyatt's Way and 3069 Wyatt's Way. All 8 cases were approved. They finally met again on August 15th. There were 10 cases on the agenda. 190871 was a porch overhang at 2275 White Marsh Drive. It was tabled until the next meeting. Case 190872 was a pergola at 11239 Frederick Lane. Case 190873 was a pergola at 1869 Parker Lane. Those were both approved. Case number 190874, 77, 76, and 75 were all single-family homes in Boulderbrook. All were approved. Case 190878 and 79 were new single-family homes in Whispering Woods in Phase 3. One was at 8772 Maryville Drive. The other one was at 8844 Maryville Drive. Both were approved. And finally, case 190880 was a single-family home at 1671 Bridget Lane, which was approved. So for those not keeping track, over the last month or so, that was 20 different cases that the ARB heard. So I'd just like to offer my sincere thanks to that board. They really do a great job. The next ARB meeting will be held on Thursday, September 5th, 6 p.m. right here in Council Chambers. The Golf Advisory Board met on Tuesday, July 16th. We received a financial report from Brian Menard. We are trending up about 25% in total sales. After 6 p.m. has been very strong this year. We've got people waiting to play almost every evening. Every Friday and Saturday are booked through September, and we have quite a few new outings that are coming on late in the season as well. We got a course update and improvement from Jim Roberts. We've actually used much less water this year than in previous years due to so much rain early in the season. The driving range maintenance is going well, and they have reseeded the practice greens. The area where the old clubhouse has been reseeded, though it will probably take throughout the rest of this year for that, really to establish. Mary Yates gave us a clubhouse update. There were 78 events booked this year. We had our first kind of major wedding. There was a 240-person wedding in July, which by all accounts went very well. We're also anticipating the biggest revenue of the year in the final quarter of this year. The next Golf Advisory Board meeting will be held on Tuesday, September 17th, 6:30 p.m. right here in Council Chambers. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Barr.
Thank you. I did not have as many meetings as Mr. Bellin over the summer recess. However, I did attend the Planning Commission meeting, August 19th, where we discussed three specific topics, two of which referenced the Child Care Center and the conditional use permit that is before council this evening. It should be noted that that Thomas Lane and New Adventures is looking to continue to invest in our community. He is seeking a conditional use permit. It is for the northwest corner of Darrow Road and Summit Commerce Parkway, permanent parcel number 64064617, which is an I-2 limited industrial district. And that was passed unanimously by the Planning Commission and recommended for council approval. So we'll be looking at that this evening. Mr. Finch also shared with us some more ideas and possibilities as it refers to the downtown redevelopment district. The downtown redevelopment district is a financial tool only that allows us to use historic structures to come up with 10-acre parcels adjacent with those structures where we can use the increase in tax receipts. We can put those back into infrastructure and improving the area contained in that district. So we continue to explore that. I know that we had a presentation here on council. He's presented it to the CIC and he presented to the Planning Commission on the 19th. The next meeting of the Planning Commission meeting is the 16th of September. We do not have a meeting this coming Monday due to the Labor Day holiday. A couple of notes on Environmental Commission. Our next meeting is this coming Tuesday, which is September 3rd. So we hope to see you there. It'll be at 7 p.m. in council chambers. A couple of items that the commission is working on, specifically, again, Ms. Walker, she doesn't take any time off over the summer. Mold Right and their Adopt a Street program, we're working on guidelines, agreement, and applications, and those will be ready for review at our next meeting. We'll contact Mold Right when that is complete. So they're looking to adopt a street, take care of the trash pickup and things like that, give back to the community, which is terrific. Environmental Commission is also looking for residents who have a history of volunteering and picking up trash and litter throughout the city. If you know anybody, any of your friends or neighbors that are constantly out there bettering their community and you'd like them to be recognized by the Environmental Commission, please reach out to any of the members of the commission, Ms. Walker or myself, any one of us. We're happy to recognize their efforts to keep Twinsburg naturally beautiful. Finally, again, the next major event the Environmental Commission is hosting is the Environmental Cleanup Day. It's open to anybody that wants to go out there and get their hands dirty and try and clean up a little bit of their community. Usually it lasts a few hours. It's Saturday, October 12th from 9 a.m. to noon. We typically meet up at the Senior Center, work together with, we provide the bags and the reflective vests, the CERT teams out there. It's a great way to give back, even if you just can spend an hour. We break you up into small groups and go fill as many garbage bags as we can, and it's amazing what you can find along the roadside. It's just a great way to give back. Again, I did mention that the next meeting of the Environmental Commission will be here Tuesday in council chambers. And that does it for me until new business and miscellaneous. So thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Stoffer.
Well, I did have the summer off, so my committees did not meet, although I was in charge of the Twins Day committee, and that went on. That was a very successful event. They had the highest number of twins in a long time. Looking at my calendar here, I don't see any of my committees meeting in the month of September either, so if anybody needs a fill-in, I'm your person. That's all I have.
Okay. Ms. McFerrin.
So the Parks and Rec Commission met on Thursday, past Thursday. The highlights are the Blues Fest is on 9/7, and we had a lot of discussion on the pickleball courts that are proposed for the Glen Meadow Park. And for the Friends of Twinsburg Parks are willing to work with the city on development of 6 courts. So that if anyone doesn't know anything about pickleball, I do have beginner classes and clinics, so it's a good way to get out and get some exercise and meet some people. What else do we have? And community relations meeting is on 9/19. That's all I have.
Okay, Mr. Fury.
Good evening. The Finance Committee will meet on September 10th at 6:30. We did have a CIC meeting on August 19th. We discussed the results of the audit, which went very well. We discussed demolition costs for removing the houses. We talked about how to increase the signage for a property we have for sale out by the Get and Go gas station that was donated to us. And our next meeting will be September 16th at 6 o'clock. And we have them in the jury room behind right behind this office. That's all I have this evening. Thank you. Oh, excuse me. Are you going to cover the gas program tonight?
I will.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Scafidi.
Thank you. Good evening. The Board of Zoning Appeals met on August 14th, and prior to that, they met 2 weeks prior to that. They had appeal number 6, 2019, which is, and I'll read this because it's a little lengthy. This is an appeal of variances from section 1145.04 and 1187.33 of the Twinsburg Zoning and Development Regulations. Section 1187.33 establishes a 200-foot residential setback from a railroad track. Section 1145.04 establishes yard regulations for locating several buildings within a group apartment development. Specifically, what they were looking for is a 30-foot variance was requested to the railroad track setback and various rear yard building setback variance to the north, south, and west property lines for a proposed one-story apartment building. This building, this is in a senior residence district, so this will be, I believe it's 55 and over, will be living there. The meeting 2 weeks prior to August 14th, it was tabled by the applicant. They asked for it to be tabled, and it was tabled. It came back up on the 14th, and the commission had a public hearing, and they went through all of they made their statements, and they brought pictures of what this might look like, and so on and so forth. After going through that, they went into the regular meeting, and the board did approve this variance, but they had about 8 conditions that were a requirement of their approval. And I'll just read the 8 real quick. The first one was landscaping and buffering. They wanted to be sure that they had a good landscape plan, that was submitted, and any buffering to any neighboring properties that were there. Particular the Belmar development, which is right next door. By the way, this proposal is for 91 in McTarian, Darrell Road and McTarian, on that corner of the road. So number 1 was landscaping and buffering. Number 2 was fencing up to 8 feet. They're looking at one section of that to be fenced in, and there'll be an 8-foot fence there. Number 3 and 4 were drainage and lighting. They wanted that plan submitted to the engineer and approved by the city engineer. Number 5, they're allowed a patio on the back of these residences, and their requirement was 8 by 8 only, with no structures attached to it, so they couldn't put an awning, they couldn't put any type of lattice work or anything on top of it. It had to be simply an 8 by 8 patio or a concrete patio there. Then number 6 was no connection to the Belmar development. So the street was not going to go through and be connected to Belmar, so they could not go through and enter or exit from Belmar. Any trees that were being removed in preparation for this development over 8 feet or 8 inches, they had to be replaced. So anything that's removed will basically have to be replaced there. because there's several trees there. And the lighting at the rear of the property, that needed to be shielded, so as not to be hamper any of the residents that are currently there in Belmar, so it doesn't shine on their properties or in their windows. So I think the BZA, the board took this very serious as they do all their cases when they look at them, and they had some really good questions, and you know, at the end of the day, they did approve it. So again, it was 5-0. So at this time, what I would like to do, and what council typically does with an appeal that goes before the Board of Zoning Appeals, once it's approved, it's a 30-day wait period before anybody can come in and get their permits and start work there. And so what council usually does, and we do not approve whether this project happens or doesn't happen, but all we do is waive the 30-day waiting period so they can go and get their permits and they can start working. However, in this case, this has not been approved by the Planning Commission yet. So it'll be going from, it went from BZA, and I believe it'll be whenever the next Planning Commission meeting is, Scott?
The 16th of September?
On the 16th of September. It should be on that agenda. So what we would do tonight is just approve the 30-day waiting period, but it still has to go through planning and be approved there before it can go forward. So at this time, what I would like to do is make a motion that we waive the 30-day waiting period for appeal number 6, 2019. Is there a second?
Sam, I would like to say something.
I'll give you a discussion in a minute. I need a second, though.
I'll second.
Okay. Discussion, right.
Okay. I have read the BZA minutes from both meetings. In the first meeting, the chairman of the BZA brought up to the developer, designer, whoever it was, one that they did not have a practical hardship on the piece of property that this is being built because they can actually build something within the zoning. Unfortunately, that something is a three-story, 130-unit building. Not going to be the best-looking building there. It won't be really good for the surrounding areas. Won't fit. But I'm really concerned, how many?
71. 71 units.
No. How many variances are we giving these to do this? We're giving them 17 different variances. Okay.
There was 8 conditions.
8 conditions.
Okay, 17 with 8 conditions. I'm concerned about the number of variances that we're allowing this to happen. There's a reason we have zoning in place. I'm not so sure that they don't have a practical, as Mr. Kanzler, the chairman of the BZA, stated, they don't have a practical hardship. He did ask the builder, when he brought up the practical hardship, he asked the builder if he would like to stop and get a written opinion from our law director as to whether or not that practical hardship was applicable to the site. And if my memory serves me right, the builder decided not to do that. Okay, didn't want a written opinion, and they moved forward. Even with the conditions that have been put on it, we have zoning for a reason, folks. That's why it's there. I don't think we make a deal on the number of exemptions that we give people on zoning, number of variances. It's very hard for me to be able to support this, even with a 30, excuse me, I'm talking. Excuse me. Okay. I think it's very hard, at least in my opinion, for us to go forward and say, hey, let's build this. I don't see why this guy, and the other thing I think Mr. Counselor said in that first part was that it didn't appear that they had tried to move any of the site plan around to see if they could fit these units in without getting some of the variances that they're asking for. The other thing on the site plan that was of difficulty to me is there's only one way in and out. This is a large complex. I think there should be 2. I know in my ward, there was people in Lake Plata who were concerned about the new development out on Shepherd Road, that they did not want that to connect into their development, but yet it was allowed. And the reason it was allowed was because the police department wanted two means of getting in and out of the street. I just think we're allowing something to happen that I don't think should. I think it's not a good thing to play games with variances. Okay, that's my speech.
Okay, well, and I'd like to make a comment to that, is that, you're right, they could have gone forward with this development without any variances at all. And that would have been three-story buildings, but by your own admission, that wouldn't have aesthetically been the right building there, okay, to do three-story. And I know that there were discussion, and the discussions were to try to modify that to make it look more like the Belmar community and not be three-story apartment buildings on the corner of that street. So after that discussion, you know, they decided to go ahead, and they agreed with us or with the city and whoever they sat and spoke with, and decided to modify their plan, and at that point they needed the variances. So that was really the reason. They did not need, and they admitted that, and the board realized that as well. So they did not need that. That's,
Okay.
you know. And again, Brian, we're not approving this. Council does not approve this development. All we would be doing is waiving the 30-day waiting period. That's not up to us to approve. The Board of Zoning Appeals already approved it, and the Planning Commission, it'll come to them next, and I'm not sure what they're going to do with it when it gets before them. So, yeah, we're not approving this development, though.
And if I could say,
Yeah, I just have one thing, Mayor, I'm sorry. So this is in my ward, and so I'm very familiar with the original plan. I'm very familiar with the new proposed plan with the variances. I agree with Mr. Steele that that seems like a lot to me. Again, I'm not an engineer. I don't know if all variances are created equal, but that just kind of doesn't feel right. On the other hand, to Mr. Scaffidi's point, the builder could go in there with 0 variances and put a structure that probably would net them more dollars, but would not be the best thing for the current residents of Belmar. And so, you know, again, I'm kind of two minds, but I can understand kind of how we got to where we are. And I do think that, again, with the exception of the variances, I do think that the ending product is going to be better for the residents of Belmar.
Scott,
You want to talk?
earlier today, okay, I ran into a resident in Belmar, and he's somebody that I know. He's been a past president of the Homeowners Association, I believe, and we talked about it, and the residents in Belmar are for this. They like the lower buildings, they like the way it is, but once again, I'm looking at it and going, 17 variances, is there a way, or, you know, he's putting in 71 units. It seems to me that he's putting in 71 units because he's maximizing the amount of money that he can return out of the property. If he takes 2 or 3 units out, does he cut the variances in half? And has
have you
that-
seen the site plan? Have you
No,
seen
no.
the site plan?
No, I haven't.
And so you haven't looked at the site plan and the specific variances as it relates to the different buildings?
I know what the variances are that came out from the BZA because I read the minutes.
But you haven't looked at the site plan to see how those relate to the different building and the building sizes?
No, I haven't
Okay,
looked at the site.
so there's 4-unit buildings and there's 6-unit buildings. So
Mhm.
when you're talking, and this was discussed also at BZA, is those setbacks vary based on a 6-unit building and a 4-unit building, and you have a varying property line. So those distances, so along one property line, you have maybe 8 variances, and because there's different setbacks.
Okay.
Because of the way that they've lined the building up to try to not maximize their profit, but to build it so that it fits appropriately on the property with the different property lines. So while there is, I believe there's 16, I don't know if there's 17, but I think it seems like a large number. However, when you look at it, there's 3 sides of a building that need a variance. Those are additional variances along one side of a building to a property line, and there's multiple ones because you have different buildings and different setbacks. So it may seem egregious being 16, it's not. It's saying we have one side of a building and what we're developing that's doesn't have a proper setback, but it's got to be numbered a certain way, okay? And you're right, the people of Belmar support this because it has an appearance, it's single story.
Mhm.
It has an appearance of being
Right.
owner occupied,
Correct.
these are apartments. And very rarely do we get developers that work with us the way that they have with this particular project. To tell a developer you're going to go from 130 to 70 is a large concession for them to fit something that they have a right to build on this property. You're right,
Sure.
there's no question they have a right to build on this property. I think it's inappropriate to say we're playing games with variances. I think that's just completely inappropriate. So the BZA puts a lot of time and a lot of effort, and it's
Mhm.
practical difficulties and undue hardship. That's a quasi-judicial board that has to meet those things. And I can tell you right now, Ed Cancer would not have put a motion in place had he not felt that there was an undue hardship or practical difficulty to do so. So it's, you know,
Didn't
it's.
reflect in the minutes from the first meeting.
Did
He
you read
was-
the second minutes?
Yes. I
Okay.
didn't, he changed his mind in the second meeting. I don't know
Okay.
his reasoning. I haven't spoken particulars
Okay.
specifically
Well, he expressed
to
a lot
him.
of it in the meeting, minutes of the second meeting.
The developer's been before the planning commission before they ever went to BZA. And the original plan, as discussed here,
Mhm.
was for a building, no variances located in the center of the property, surrounded by a sea of concrete with perimeter lighting for a parking lot, just like you'd see
Okay.
any other apartment building. 3-story monolith in the middle
Mhm.
and perimeter lighting. Planning commission basically unanimously said this is just, it's not conducive with the area, it's not appropriate, you're gonna get a lot of pushback. And yes, there would have been with no variances. And Mr. Bell and I have talked about this at length, this is in his ward. This product is definitely more in the same theme as the Belmar project. They are a multifamily unit. They have individual driveways and separate entrances. They are going to be doing clustered mailboxes and some other things. The intent is to make it walkable. The developer has expressed an interest in connecting to Center Valley Parkway and some other things with the trail system. Talking like a politician for a minute, it's not the number of variances as much, I suppose, that worries me as the amount of variances. I mean, you tell me I need a variance because of a 3-foot setback issue. In my mind, that weighs differently than a 30-foot setback issue. And I think some of that goes to the mayor's point a little bit, that you do have these structures, and based on the fact that they occupy a different footprint, they do have different setback requirements. And then, you know, we all know that the property lines aren't ruler straight. I will be interested to see when this comes before the planning commission again. I agree with Mr. Steele, we do have a zoning code for a reason. I'd be shocked that, I mean, to look at, you know, other developments that have gone in that haven't required variances. I don't know, I think the developer has shown a willingness, at least thus far, to work with the city on this. Bob, I know you're throwing your hands up.
Okay, wait a minute. This is out of
Hold on,
control.
hold on,
Hold
Bob.
on, you can't
Stop.
talk out there.
Sorry.
Scott, Mr. Fury has some comments he'd like to make, and then Mr. Finch is going to come up, our planner.
Okay.
Go ahead, Bill.
Okay. I thought this was a good compromise. I mean, I know the residents of the existing community did not want this developed when it was brought up 5 years ago. And the idea of a 3-story apartment building in your backyard is not desirable. So when you're leaving 50 units on the table with the variances and the way this is set up to be copacetic with the surrounding community and not having the connection, I looked at the maps and you got railroad tracks on one side and then property. I mean, there's nowhere to, I don't know how you would do 2 entrances unless I just don't know how you do that, because there's only so much frontage there between the railroad track and the 2 houses that are there coming down the railroad tracks. It can't be 50, 60 yards. I mean, it's not that big a place. So I don't know how you do 2 entrances, because you can't, you don't own the property on the other side of the railroad tracks, and Belmar doesn't want you to go into their community as part of the deal. So because it's unenclosed, when Mr. Bellin's community was being developed, I had people in Meadowwood who were very angry that those stub streets that were next to the cornfield were being connected, and people were saying, how can you, when I bought my house, this wasn't developed, but it was a stub street, and we don't have the stub streets to do that. So I guess 1 entrance is fine with me, but to keep it to 1 story with minimal intrusiveness into the existing, it just sounds like a good deal to me. I understand about variances, stood on the board multiple times, I know we need hardships, but when I looked at the map, some of those variances, again, it was the same deal. It was just multiplied because you had different property lines the whole way back. It was sliced. So,
Okay.
And we're, again, I think that we're not to the point where, if you hate the variances, you can make a motion and 5 members of council can vote to deny the Board of Zoning Appeals variances. I'm not there. And all they're asking us is to do is wait the 30 days so that
Right.
somebody can start construction on the compromise that they've already done to be 50 houses less, or 50 units less, excuse me. So, if there's a majority that wants to make this start over again, the answer is to make a motion to override the Board of Zoning's variances.
Okay. Well, I won't do that because I know that
I've got a motion out there.
there's at least 6 people on this council that wouldn't vote for it. Okay. And I understand. We just have a disagreement.
I'm just telling you how to do it.
I know how to do it. Okay. We
Mr.
just have
Finch is going to
disagreement.
come up, okay? I got a motion out there, too. Mr. Finch is going to step up. Mr.
Come on up,
Finch.
Larry.
As Larry's walking up, I just want to ask, what is the urgency for waiting the 30 days? The planning commission's not meeting until 32 days after BZA.
Well, that was my question today, and I talked to Mr. Finch, and according to him, planning's going to be meeting prior to the 30 days.
Right,
And so he didn't, if in fact it's approved, then he didn't want to hold them up.
right.
When, do you know when they're going to meet?
16th.
The
16th, you
16th.
just said it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to beat a dead horse to death, but I did want to make just a couple points. First of all, this was a Herculean effort on the part of the developer to make a compromise that satisfied the Belmar residents. Everybody was looking out for the Belmar residents and trying to make them happy in this whole thing, while also trying to accommodate the interests of the developer in this property. Part of the issues come from the way our zoning regulations treat multifamily units. It considers them basically like the traditional couple of floor multifamily, multi-unit building like next door here. And the setbacks are based on that kind of structure. So the setbacks it's a really complicated estimate of setbacks that's based on height and separation and how much overlap there is between a building and not have a building. It's not meant for a single floor structure that's located closer to another single floor structure. So that's part of the reason why there are so many variances, because the zoning code is outdated for the kind of development that is being proposed now in this case and others. Also, with regard to the issue of a hardship, there is certainly a hardship on this lot for any construction that might have occurred here. First, there's a 200-foot setback from the railroad center line. 200 feet, if you can envision that, that's 2/3 of a football field. In addition to that, there's a gas line easement that runs diagonally and partially outside of that railroad easement. So the property is substantially restricted by these inherent impediments. So the issues of hardship and practical difficulty are there on the property. The other issue relates to the nature of the zoning code, and it's not up to date regarding this type of development, and this type of development does not fit neatly into the code that we have currently. but it does work with a few variances, and the variances, for the most part, are relatively minor and related to overlaps and setbacks relative to the individual buildings and the property line. That's all I wanted to make, just a couple of points. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Okay.
Any other discussion on my motion? Anybody else? Okay. I had a second from Mr. Fury. Shannon, call the roll.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
No.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Okay, that's it for the Board of Zoning Appeals. The only other thing I have under my report is Capital Improvements Board will meet for the first time on September 10th at 6 o'clock? 6 o'clock right here in the council chambers. And that's the end of my report tonight. Thank you.
Okay. None of my committees have met, so we will move on to the mayor.
All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome back after the break. Going to touch on a bunch of stuff that's going on around the city, and that's happened while we've been gone. A couple things just to touch base on construction projects. So those that live on Wallingford, at the end of this month, that's set to be resurfaced, so up in the Ledges development. The 91 project near the center of town, we hope to have finished in the next couple of weeks. So it's a project that's been going on for a while now. The 90 Meadowood project, right now they're looking at into September, beginning of October to complete that. We're starting to get questions now regarding our gas aggregate. So each year we work with independent energy consultants, and what we do with them is we agree upon a formula, and then it goes out to bid to the whole industry that can provide gas aggregate to the city of Twinsburg. And so this year we're going to lock in for 3 years. I think we're currently around 3.4 MCF, and we're going to lock in at 2.82. So it's a really good rate. We're able to get that rate for 3 years with Constellation. So if you're in the program now, you don't need to really do anything. You can just stay in the program. But there will be letters coming out, so if there's any questions regarding those letters, just give us a call here at City Hall. Another thing we're working on around town, so we get a grant from NOPEC each year, and we can use it for energy projects within the city. And one thing we're looking at is putting on 4 different locations charging stations for electric vehicles. This is something a lot of municipalities are doing. We should be able to do it within the total dollar amount of the grant, and so that's something we're looking at City Hall, potentially the golf course, up by the outdoor water park, and then at the center of town on the square. So we have electric sources at all those. So we're looking at, and there'll be more information as the project moves forward. If you've been up at Liberty Park, there's a new ball field going in, and it's getting close to completion. Should be done this summer and be used next year. And this was a great project. Tonight we heard from the Friends of Twinsburg Parks that are looking to partner with us on pickleball courts over in Glen Meadow Park. This was a partnership with TBL that gave us money to help build a baseball field. And so it's great that we have organizations in town that help run our youth programming and have enough resources to help fund these kind of projects. Rock the Park this past year. I know we mentioned we have the Blues Fest coming up, but it was a fantastic season. We had great weather, probably the highest revenue season we've ever had. We have some great sponsors that help fund it. We had 3 or 4, I think, 4 sellouts, which is probably the highest number we've had. Maybe 5 if we count the Reggae Fest. But it was just, all the effort that goes into that. And if you've been to any of those concerts, it's just such a tremendous asset and community building within Twinsburg. So I enjoy going to them, and I know a ton of work goes into them. So thanks to all of Parks and Rec and all the work they put. We've got the water park closing down on the 7th, and there's going to be some extended days to the 15th. So if you're part of that, I think make sure you get out this weekend. Hopefully we have a nice weekend to enjoy the water park one last time. Around the city, we are going around, and we have a sidewalk leveling program. There's really no other municipality that does this. And so we've targeted different neighborhoods that we go, and if there's significant changes in the sidewalk elevation between pads, we have equipment now that can level that for the residents. It's typically the responsibility of the resident, but we bought equipment back in 2015, and we've been going around this time of the year, and we get through whatever we can, and then we'll start again next summer, toward the end of the summer. But that's going on along with hydrant painting, so watch for our service guys. Tonight we swore in a new full-time officer, John DeVault, which was exciting to see him become. He spent 3 years as a part-timer. And then also, and it's kind of gone in the shadows, but in the last 60 days we've hired 4 part-time firefighters. So they're really trying to build that part-time roster back up. So it's something that we're glad we've been able to bring on 4 guys, because it's getting really challenging both in safety forces and police and fire. We're not getting the turnout for our civil service test. And so it's good to see that we had a good turnout for this last one for fire, and we're able to pull some guys from it. Twins Day was a great event. We had, again, as was shared, we had probably 500 more sets of twins register. It was a perfect weekend. The parade was a lot of fun this year. We had a great turnout for the parade, and just I know that organization always spends a lot of time and resources putting on that event for Twinsburg. National Night Out. Didn't have the best weather for National Night Out, so that's our police community day. Still was a great event. We estimated that we had around 500 residents come out for that. It's always a challenging event because it's right. Typically, it's the first Tuesday. It's always the first Tuesday in August, and it always either is right before Twins Day or right after Twins Day. And it's a big event for us to put on, and it's a big stress. Twins Day is a huge stress on our service department and really every department within the city. So we're considering, and we'll give you more information, but we're considering creating our own police event and do it in like May or June, so that there's no conflict with Twins Day. So we're looking to do that. I know the committee's meeting to talk about that for next year. Let's see. I just want to thank the service department. So we had an unusual 7 days. That National Night Out, I left National Night Out and went to a water main break on Glenwood, and was there most of the rest of the evening, where we had a water main that was starting to flood a backyard area off of Glenwood, and we finally got Cleveland Water out to stop it. But the next day we were able to pull a pump and get service department out there to, they basically drained thousands and thousands of gallons of water from these people's backyard into Tinker's Creek. We spent a whole entire day doing it, but I just want to thank the service department, because we called people in that evening, and then we had a couple other water main breaks on some other developments. But again, we've got a great group of guys, and they do a lot of great work here in the city. And then lastly, I just want to recognize Jeff Cole. So if you know anything about Cable 9 or Channel 9, if you've watched it over the years, Jeff Cole's kind of been the face of Twinsburg and Aurora and Nordonia, and all the shows that goes on there, he's typically the host. He is retiring to a part-time position there and will not be hosting a lot of the shows, but he's just been a tremendous advocate for the community over the years. And it's going to be hard to see him go. But anyway, I just want to recognize Jeff, and he's become a friend in all the work that he's done over the last number of years. So I think that's all I have. There's a lot. So we have a couple of department head reports. Derek, you want to start?
Good evening. I'm just here to promote Daisy's new venture of Segways.
I knew he had one.
Sorry, I didn't. But I do want to also talk about the pickleball group and the Twinsburg, or the Friends of Twinsburg Parks. I do think it's a good venture. Looking forward to it. And if there are residents like the residents did here of the township of Reminderville, go talk to your trustees, go talk to your representatives as well, because that's how things get done. I mean, me coming isn't as impressive as a whole group of people coming, so that's what I would recommend to the park, the Friends of the Twinsburg Parks. The ball field, like the mayor mentioned, is going smoothly. We should be seated hopefully by the end of September. They'll play on that sometime next year, probably be in the fall, just to give it a good time to grow, but we'll determine that as the year goes on. As the mayor mentioned, Rock the Park it was great. We're booking, I've already booked 3 bands for next year, and I want to let people know I can't book a band and tell them what day they want to play. So it doesn't, everyone, oh, you got to book this, you got to book that, or you got to have them. Schedules don't work. Things don't line up. They can be there on a Tuesday when I need them on a Friday. So, I mean, it's a difficult job when there's a million bands, but they all play in a million places. So it's not, yes, I can get them. I might have talked to them every year for 5 years. It just doesn't work out because I booked someone, but that's the day they can do. So it's a difficult balancing act. I do try. It's not like I not wanted to do heavy metal for every year. It just didn't work out, and it worked out this year. It may not work out next year, but I try my best. But it is difficult to do that. But camp is wrapped up, Safety Town's wrapped up, pool is open until the 2nd, and then open for splash days. So we're kind of winding down that part of the business, but then that kind of just picks up the fitness center a little bit too, especially when school's back in session. Swimming lessons, new session. Swimming lessons is starting soon. Our swim team is up and coming as well. And then, of course, Brandon needed to plug that if you're looking for box lunches for sport groups, or soccer team needs lunches or dinners before they go on field trips, or sorry, not field trips. I was thinking camp. Talking about going on away matches and stuff, you can order those through the Berg. So he wanted me to say that. And then our community theater production of Beauty and the Beast will take place in September. It's 80 people cast. It's the 20th, 21st, 22nd, 27th, 28th, and 29th. For that, and we do have Blues Fest coming up on September 7th. It's kind of one of our partnerships like we do with Reggae Fest through another promoter, Taste CLE. Dog swim is on September 28th, so the dogs can go in the pool that day. Art Festival on the 12th. And we do start accepting snowplow applications, the senior center, in September. So
You had to bring that up.
I know. And then speaking of that, Luminosity, we're looking at moving a week later, not being the Saturday of Thanksgiving, so it'll be December 7th this year. And a couple other things, flag football, tennis lessons are starting, and we will be hosting the Wizard of Oz Festival at Glen Chamberlain Park this year. That's moved from another community. That'll be the end of September, and that's a big, he estimates 5,000 to 10,000 people coming to that event at Glen Chamberlain Park. A&M and the golf course, real quick update. It was our best month financially in July for the restaurant. Patio obviously helps with that. We can double the size of tables that we're sitting. We've had a bunch of small banquet stuff during the day, but we have had some big events coming, a couple of weddings. I think we have something in there. We had an 80th birthday party for 200 people this past week. We have a wedding this Sunday because it's Labor Day, so you can follow a wedding on a Sunday. And I think there is a big golf outing or a wedding in that space through the beginning, I think the first weekend in November. So we will be some, and we just want to let people know we're going to do better signage, let people know the restaurant is open when those events are going on. You show up and there's 200 people wedding, there may not be a ton of parking, so we're going to try to get the word out, let people know that we're open. You still come for dinner sort of thing, but there is parking, just maybe look like we're full. And the fireplace is finished. If you haven't seen it at the pavilion, it looks great. We did kind of a mock photo shoot kind of just to sell the space. We put the chairs up, if you saw it on Facebook, so we can add it to some literature and get the word out that this is a good ceremony location. And we are planning a New Year's Eve event there, hosted by us, so we will be getting all that information out.
Cool.
I think that's all I got unless there's questions.
Yeah, Derek, I was at the fitness center this past week, and I saw that the pool was drained. I'm assuming,
Yes.
is that just part of normal?
Yeah, we do it every year, and you can go to the outdoor pool instead, and that'll be back open on Tuesday.
Okay, thank you.
Derek, the thought behind moving Luminosity a week later, what's behind that?
It's a tough scheduling with staff. We're asking, employees who are off usually Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Now you're working. I will say it's maybe slightly personal. I've been the only one not at Thanksgiving for 8 years. So we were looking at that sort of things, but it's not just me. It's bringing a service department on, that Saturday. The police, the fire, everyone is coming in. So we were looking, and it would actually cut down on how much it costs to light the front of this because it'd be one less week. So yeah, just a couple.
Thank you for that. I appreciate any cost savings going forward.
But if it doesn't work out, we'll move it back next year. It doesn't mean
No.
we have to.
I like it.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. And Derek, I just wanted to add, I had a personal golf outing on the 18th, and the staff was wonderful. Everybody had a great time.
Good.
The pavilion was beautiful, so I only heard great things about everything about the course, the condition, and the people, so thank you.
Good, thank you. Yes. Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks, Derek.
Larry?
Lord.
Okay, it's late, and I'm going to be really quick.
Right.
That's what they all say.
The planning department, we're taking another look at the sign regulations for content neutrality. It's something we started to do a couple of years ago that kind of went by the wayside. It's back up and running now. We're going to have draft regulations to the planning commission and ARB next month. So after they've had an opportunity to give it their 2 cents or whatever it's worth, we'll be bringing it to council probably in October. So that's something to look out for. We presented the downtown redevelopment preliminary plan to Planning Commission, and it's under their review now. Basically, we kind of left it pending the Roach House National Register outcome. The Historical Society has submitted the old Chamber building to the nomination for the National Register. If that's successful, we'll have the ability to do 3 districts instead of 2, which will enable us to cover basically the entire area of the square. If we only have 2 areas built around the existing National Register structures, we won't get quite as much coverage. So we expect to hear sometime, probably in the next month or so, whether that's going to be successful, and then we'll know whether we have 2 or 3 districts to work with. As the mayor noted, we're going to be establishing charging stations with our NOPEC grant this year. We're looking at least 8 stations in 4 different locations. It's 2 in 4 locations. And we're finalizing cost estimates with various vendors right now. We'll be able to pick a vendor, I'm thinking, by the end of next week, if not earlier. And I'm hoping we'll have them all installed before Thanksgiving. So that's something to look for in case you have an electric vehicle. Other than that, the CIC, as was mentioned, will meet on September 16th, and that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Just Sarah.
Sarah.
Good evening. Over the summer, Finance worked with the performance audit team for the state of Ohio, just to provide them anything that they're asking for. Our 2018 financial audit was completed and submitted to the Auditor of State, so as soon as that gets approved by them, it'll be available online. The state of Ohio asked us to consider a 5-year extension with our current auditors, Perry and Associates. And they did come back with a proposal to keep our fee the same for the next 5 years. So we're gonna go ahead and move forward with that. 2020 budget requests are in, so we'll start compiling that and putting that together. Capital Improvement Board meetings start next month. Interest earnings are up 22%. We're at just under 150,000 this year, where we were at 121 last year at this time. And income tax revenues, we are down for the month. We're at 1.6 for August, where we were at 1.7 last year. That's a decrease of 8%, but we are up for the year 3.74%. We're at 16.6, where we were at 16 even last year. And I think that's it.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
All right, that's all we have.
Okay. I would like to say something, Ted. When you were down on Glenwood with the water main leak, I think we saw each other. I took a ride by to see it, and I respect you for going down there and getting in the middle of that. The good part was...
I was already wet from the dunk tank, so.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
So
the
that
good
was
thing
waist
was
deep,
you were
it didn't
already
matter.
soaked when you got there, so walking through the knee-deep water was not that, although it was probably really cold, I would think. Okay. Okay, next we're on to legislation. First is ordinance 75, 2019.
An ordinance requesting the fiscal officer of Summit County, Ohio, to accept certification of delinquent sanitary sewer rentals and water fund maintenance charges as compiled and placed on the record in the office of the Twinsburg Finance Director and declaring an emergency.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to declare ordinance 75, 2019 an emergency and place it on its third and final reading. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. McFerrin seconds. Any discussion on the emergency?
Why is it an emergency?
Because we want to, as quickly as possible, be able to collect the
Collect what we-
delinquent funds.
Yep.
It has to be certified to
It
the
has to be
county.
certified
by the
Yeah, it's got to be
6th,
down there
I
by a
think.
certain...
Okay. All right, Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Okay, the emergency clause passes 7-0. Next, I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 75, 2019. Is there a second?
A second.
Mr. Fury seconds. Any discussion? Okay, Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 75, 2019 passes 7-0. Next is resolution 76, 2019.
A resolution declaring the official intent and reasonable expectation of the City of Twinsburg on behalf of the State of Ohio to reimburse its general sewer, water, and/or SCMR fund for the Oakwood Drive Improvement Project with the proceeds of tax-exempt debt of the State of Ohio.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution 76, 2019. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Scafidi seconds. Any discussion?
Yeah, quickly, this is for the Oakwood Drive improvements in Glenwood Acres, and this would also include water line. There's, I believe, two more. After Oakwood, there'd be 2 more streets left there, and a partial of Glenwood that need to be replaced yet from the Transact pipeline. So that's what this would be for.
Okay. Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Okay, resolution 76, 2019 passes 7-0. Okay, next is ordinance 77, 2019.
An ordinance authorizing the lease of 2 vehicles through Kempthorne Incorporated for use by the police department and declaring an emergency.
I'd like to make a motion to declare ordinance 77, 2019 an emergency and place it on its third and final reading. Is there a second?
A second.
Mr. Fury seconds. The reason we want to do this is the lease on the 2 we currently have is ending and we need to get new cars. Any other discussion? Okay, Shannon, please call the roll on the emergency.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Okay, the emergency clause passes 7-0. I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 77, 2019. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Belling seconds. Any further discussion?
Total cost for the cars is $15,800 for the lease.
Okay. Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Okay. Ordinance 77, 2019 passes 7-0. Next, we're on to resolution 78. Oh, wait a minute. Excuse me.
That's it.
That's right. Resolution 78, 2019.
A resolution authorizing the city engineer to apply for federal surface transportation block grant funds programmed by the Akron Metropolitan Transportation Study to resurface Ravenna Road, East Idlewood to Glenwood, and declaring an emergency.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 78, 2019. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Scafidi seconds.
Wait, Shannon.
It's as an emergency.
Adopted as an emergency.
Adopt as an emergency.
We're going to do this as an emergency?
Yes, please.
Okay.
But you don't need to suspend the rules. I think you can just.
You just.
For a
Motion to
resolution.
adopt it as an
Resolution, just
emergency.
adopt. it as an
Okay.
emergency.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 78, 2019 as an emergency.
I'll second
Is there
that.
a second?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi seconds.
Thank you.
Any discussion?
I have something quickly.
Go ahead.
This is the last leg of Ravenna Road that needs to be repaired or replaced. This borders Ward 1 and also Mr. Steele's Ward 2.
Right.
And so, again, this is the last leg, and, we've had people ask us about
Right.
that and why it's taking so long. And, if through this federal funding, we can get about $430,000, the city's share would be about $108,000. So we opt to go ahead and wait for that rather than spend over $500,000 or $500,000 on it ourselves. In the meantime, the service department's been working diligently to keep that section of the road in decent traveling order. And I thank them and commend them for that. So that's the reason we're doing this. That's it. Thank you.
And we had applied for this grant before, but the road was in too good of condition to
It was turned
be
down.
applicable, so that the
Correct.
grant was turned down.
Right.
And it's still rated in good condition.
Mhm. Thanks.
Okay, the only thing I got with this is that Amy did say that this could be in 2023 or 2024.
Right.
This
Yeah.
year. I mean, that road's gonna deteriorate pretty bad between now and then.
Mhm.
Okay, Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes. Okay, Resolution 78, 2019 passes 7-0. Okay, next we're on to Ordinance 79, 2019.
An ordinance approving a change order to the contract with Bca Construction Company Incorporated for modification of additional work related to the 2019 road improvement project and declaring an emergency.
I'd like to make a motion to declare Ordinance 79, 2019 an emergency and place it on its third and final reading. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Stoffer seconds. Any discussion?
Well, this is a change order for Ashdale because they ran into some additional challenges with the concrete underline that had to be repaired in order to get the road fixed correctly. So this is the first part of a two-part solution to fund the change order.
Okay. I think if I remember rightly, we had 200,000 plus was allocated in the road program to grind Ashdale and then do whatever fix to the subsurface. Unfortunately, that subsurface is falling apart, and I think the last mayor, was it 735 we're up to $735,000.
For the total project,
Give or take.
give or take, yeah, for the
Okay.
total project.
Shows you what happens when you open up a road and you find out that everything underneath it's not in good shape. Okay. Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Okay, the emergency clause passes 7-0. Now I'd like to make a motion to adopt Ordinance 79, 2019. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Fury seconds. Any further discussion? Okay, Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Okay, we're now on to Ordinance 80, 2019.
An ordinance amending the current year appropriations for the general revenue account as established in Ordinance 18, 2019, the appropriation ordinance for the City of Twinsburg for the year 2019, and declaring an emergency.
I'd like to make a motion to declare Ordinance 80, 2019 an emergency and place it on its third and final reading. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Fury? Is there any discussion?
The purpose of this ordinance is to now transfer money into the account to pay for the change order in the amount of $190,000. We want to do it on an emergency because Ashdale's been torn up for 2 months now, and we want to fix the road
Right.
and finish it.
In fact, in the caucus meeting, Amy did say that didn't she say they were putting some asphalt down on it earlier, right? So we're getting started. Okay. Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Okay, the emergency clause passes 7-0. Now I'd like to make a motion to adopt Ordinance 80, 2019. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Fury seconds again.
I'm on a roll.
Doing very well.
Any further discussion? Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Okay. Ordinance 80, 2019 passes 7-0. Now we're on to Resolution 81, 2019.
A resolution authorizing a conditional use permit for the Child Daycare Center for New Adventures LTD for the parcel number 64-06417 located northwest corner of Darrell Road and Summit Commerce Parkway, Twinsburg, Ohio, as recommended by the Planning Commission.
Okay. Is this one in, I don't see it on here. We're not doing an emergency on this. Okay. I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 81, 2019. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Fury seconds. Any discussion?
This passed in planning unanimously. It's for an existing business owner who wants to build a new building and invest in our community for a child care center.
Okay. Dave, you said that he has to, or did Larry say it? He has to go to the Corps of Engineers or something to get,
There's some other approvals he needs prior to actually starting.
okay. Okay, Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Okay, Resolution 81, 2019 passes 7-0. Now we're on to unfinished business, new business, and miscellaneous. Anybody have anything?
I have nothing.
$2.82 for natural gas is the lowest rate we've ever had in the city. At one point, it was $14 an MCF in 2000, I think, in 7. So this is such a long-term lock rate. Now, natural gas is at an all-time low right now, but this is a fantastic deal for us. You can't get this without being in aggregation. And it's available to anybody to come in and out for the next 3 years, so great job.
Yeah, it's 3 years.
It's 3 years.
Right.
3 years.
3 years and 282. Good job.
And I'd like to thank Peg Breitz and Deb Alts for working together to pull together the pickleball courts. I think it was really true, it shows our community. So I like that. Congratulations, thank you to them.
Yeah, pickleball is, I think I'm going to have to get there on a Monday or Thursday and see if I
Give
can
it a-
still stand up and swing an arm.
Graphite.
And on that note, the Friends of Twinsburg Parks are having a membership drive and renewal drive. So if you haven't joined yet, it's $10 for an individual or $20 for a couple. And then you know they appreciate your support.
Okay, I have 2 things I want to say. One, while we disagree on that piece of property, that's what we're here for, is we don't always agree on what's going on. I don't hold it against anybody, and I hope that nobody holds it against me that we differ in our opinions. That's what being in government is all about. Two, I once again would like to send my condolences to Mrs. Gaydosh on the passing of her husband. Andy, I think, was 91 years old when he died, and they were also married for 62 years. They were married 60-plus years. I think that's a wonderful thing that they were married that long. And on the next note on that is I'd like to tell my wife I love her. And Friday is our 39th anniversary.
Congratulations,
So-
Brian.
To have somebody put up with me for that long is amazing. Mayor, you were up.
Yeah, just want to mention one thing. So, you know, there was a tragic car accident that impacted the lives
Yes.
of a couple of our residences. We lost Max Ligon, who was graduated 2018. He was also an Eagle Scout, and I got notification just actually this evening during council that there's going to be a fundraiser. So he used to work at El Campesino, and so they're going to offer a 20% discount, and all the discount is going to go toward his family for funeral expenses and some final medical costs that they have. So that's this Saturday from noon till 10 p.m. at El Campesino. And then just there was other kids in the car that one is still in critical condition, and you know, just keep those families in your thoughts and prayers. So that's all I have this evening.
Mayor, can I just jump on that real quick? I also received something this evening. It looks like they're going to be doing a fundraiser. More details to be announced, but save the date, October 6, 2019 at Sassy's Bar and Grill in Twinsburg. I guess the date is confirmed. It's going to be from like an all-day type of event, and again, to go help pay expenses for the family's loss. So more shall be revealed. I'm sure we'll all see it on social media, but I did see that on October 6th, it says. Thank you for mentioning.
Okay, we're all here, so we don't need to excuse any absent members. So we are adjourned.